Hello and welcome to the Charity Show Bites, your quick-fire dose of charity sector stories, insights and a little bit of fun between our main episodes. I'm Tim Bainan.
And I'm Piers Townley. And today we're rummaging through the shelves, sifting through the donations and uncovering some of the most surprising, valuable and downright unbelievable finds in charity shops.
That's right, we're going to be talking about those moments when an eagle-eyed volunteer or a lucky shopper stumbles across something extraordinary, like a rare first edition book, a forgotten antique, or even a priceless piece of history hiding in plain sight.
Some of these discoveries turned out to be worth thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds. And best of all, every penny raised went straight back to the charities.
So then, let's see what we can uncover. Okay, so to kick us off, this is a story, Piers, that actually I spotted this week. So this is in the news this week. This is why I thought this would be quite a good topic for us to talk about in this Bites episode. So this is the story of a Bible that was found in an Oxfam charity shop in Chelmsford that sold for £56,000. So the story, reading from the BBC News website here, says that charity shop workers have been left in complete shock, it says, after a donated Bible sold at auction for more than 56 grand. Now, the rare text, which was the first Bible written in Chinese, had been dropped off at this Oxfam bookshop in Chelmsford. And actually, this Oxfam bookshop in Chelmsford has a history of remarkable first editions. So Google it, check it out. This is not unique. They seem to be unearth all kinds of gems in this bookshop. So if you're going to go shopping for a first edition, head to Chelmsford. That's my tip from this episode. Anyway, volunteers put this book up for auction with a pre-sale estimate of about £800. So they weren't thinking huge. They knew it was worth something, but they weren't thinking it was massive. But incredibly, it sold for £56,000. And the shop manager, Nick Reeves, said that his staff were absolutely speechless when it raised that huge sum of money. And the Bible, it turns out, was among 23 other texts donated to various Oxfam shops, which went under the hammer at this incredible auction at Bonham's earlier in March. And yeah, in total, more than £105,000 was raised by the sale of books at the auction. So these are all gems that were found in various Oxfam bookshops. And just to highlight some of the other incredible sales that took place during that auction, there was a first edition of Charles Dickens's A Christmas Carol, which sold for £16,640. A Dickens autograph quoting the same book for £12,160. A first edition of Karl Marx's Manifesto of the Communist Party, that's a cracking read, for £10,880, and a signed copy of Matilda by Roald Dahl for £2,304. So there we go. Amazing.
I love a good book story, Tim. Well, yeah, the first Bible in Chinese. Wow, I'd love to see that as well. And
I thought you were saying you'd love to read that. Would you be able to read that?
I look at the pictures.
Yeah.
Staying with books and staying with first editions, and this is something that comes up time and time again in the news. It's first editions of Harry Potter and Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, specifically surfaced in charity shops across the UK. And back in 2024, so just last year, an anonymous donor gifted a first edition of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone to an RSPCA charity shop on the Isle of Wight. A vigilant volunteer identified the book's significance, leading to its valuation between 7 and 10 grand. And the book was auctioned by Hanson's Auctioneers, with proceeds benefiting the RSPCA Isle of Wight branch. So a very valuable tome indeed. Then back in 2022, a businessman purchased a first edition of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone for just 50p from a Manchester charity shop. And despite being covered in children's doodles, the odd bit of little graffiti there, the book's rarity led it to be selling at auction for 15.5 grand. Far exceeding its initial estimate of £2,000 to £3,000. So amazing markup on that edition. And the third one we have, the year's unknown for this one, but a rare first edition of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was discovered in a charity shop and later sold at auction for £69,000. That's a phenomenal amount of money.
Wow. I wish I had a good eye for a first edition, though. You go into charity shops, you do see like books that look like old books.
Yeah.
I couldn't really tell if they're a first edition.
I couldn't tell either. Yeah.
So obviously it's the first print of a book. I think the thing about these, having read a bit about these Harry Potter books, I think these rare. I think there was a print run of the Philosopher's Stone that was really short, like a short print run, because I think there was some errors in it. I think there were some typos in it or something like that. And I think that's what makes them super valuable, because there was a very, very short print run, and then they realized there were some typos or something in these books, which is why that it was pulled, and so therefore they're worth so much money.
If you're a budding author out there, it's worth just deliberately putting a typo in, then, because if 10 years time you become world famous, you've got yourself a typo valuable edition.
There you go. Yeah. No, in mine, like I'd just pick up I'd go into the shop, pick up a Harry Potter, and it'd be worth exactly what it says on the tin. Absolutely no chance. 50p, yeah. There you go. Or I find it next door for 40p and have been ripped off. Okay, coming up next. Next up on our little list here, we've got we're going from books to music here, and this is all about a rare Beatles single that was discovered. So a rare copy of the Beatles' debut single, Love Me Do, was donated to a British Heart Foundation shop in Midhurst, West Sussex. This original 7-inch demo contained a misspelling of Paul McCartney's surname as McCartney rather than McCartney, and was valued and sold for around £4,000. So there you go. Again, we're coming back to the mistakes. Sometimes these things that are unique because there's an error on them. So keep an eye out for typos and things. And there you go. £4,000 for Love Me Do.
There's cash in those old typos then, isn't there?
Yeah.
Like I say, as comms people, that's not something we want to be dealing with. Typos aren't their thing.
I've made a few typos over the years. Maybe all my errors now are worth a bit.
Back to the archives it is. So from music to bling bling, a shopper in Inverness picked up an old-looking Rolex Submariner from a local charity shop for just £25. Thinking it was a replica, they later had it authenticated, and it turns out it was the real deal, worth £10,000. The lucky buyer sold it at auction, and the charity received a generous donation from the proceeds.
Wow. There you go. Amazing. Actually, this does raise a little bit of a question over ethics, doesn't it? In terms of, if you buy something from a charity shop like that for a steal, and it turns out to be worth thousands, what do? Should you give it back to the charity? Should that money back to the charity shop? Should you keep it for yourself? Should you split the proceeds? But it's an interesting ethical dilemma for someone who's lucky enough to find themselves in that situation, I think.
I guess if it's the Bible worth £56,000, you've got a few grand to spare, really. So you kind of should be doing the right thing.
Definitely. Now we're turning to art. So a rare Picasso sketch. An Oxfam store in Tunbridge Wells was sorting through donations when a volunteer came across what appeared to be an abstract pencil sketch. After an expert examined it, it turns out that the piece was confirmed to be an authentic Picasso drawing, and that sold at auction for a staggering £40,000. So don't ignore your random pencil sketches. Could be a hidden Picasso.
Paintings to crockery. This one is mind-blowing. A customer in Hertfordshire charity shop bought what seemed like a standard Chinese vase for just £1. But after some research, it was identified as an 18th century, now I will get this wrong, so bear with, Qianlong period vase. So an 18th century Qianlong period vase. And it later sold for, drumroll, £484,000. So from £1 to just under £500,000. The charity, which remained unnamed actually at the buyer's request, was, as you'd understand, speechless. The funds were used to refurbish the shop and fund community outreach projects. So there you go, Tim. There's an example of money going back to the charity, which is incredible. But yeah, a £1 bit of crockery for nearly £500,000. That's just wow.
Wow. Do you know what? I feel a little bit I feel a lot for the person who donated it. So the people who donate these things, did the person who donated just think it was rubbish and it was worthless, so they gave it to the charity shop?
That sort of thing's like losing a lottery ticket, isn't it? And someone else picking it up, you would be absolutely gutted.
Imagine reading the newspaper. Yeah, opening up the newspaper and seeing your vase there, on the front pages or whatever, having been sold for almost £500,000, and you donated it to a local charity shop thinking it was a piece of junk.
Especially as you probably used it in your garage just to put the odd
paintbrush in,
screw or paintbrush or something in. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Or propped open a cupboard door with it.
Wow. Anyway, we're back to paintings now. So this story is about one shopper in London who got more than they bargained for when they bought an old mirror from a charity shop. They basically discovered, when they got it home, that there was a hidden oil painting inside. that later sold for £5,000. The charity in question, which specialised in homeless support services, used the money to provide meals and accommodation for people in need. So a real win-win there all round. Although presumably the person didn't get their mirror. Their mirror was, I'm assuming they had to smash the mirror to find the painting. So that was a bit random. Why would you take a mirror home and then smash it up in order to then find a painting behind? Weird, random.
Well, but you're going to go and do that now. I might go and crack a few mirrors here just in case there's something hiding behind them I don't know of.
I'm not sure what my wife would say if I tried to do that.
There is that. And finally, in Brentwood, Essex, an Oxfam volunteer discovered a rare £100 banknote tucked inside a box of donations. At first, it was valued at £30,000, but after intense bidding war, it sold for a jaw-dropping £140,000. So imagine nearly throwing that away, thinking it was just an old note. Oxfam said the proceeds went towards their efforts in tackling poverty, helping thousands in need. So there, money does garner more money. And actually, there's a good anecdote here from the Brain Tumour Charity. We were one of the partners of the Bank of England very recently, actually. And the new King Charles £5, £10, £20 notes were auctioned off for charity, and we were one of 10 charities. And it's all down to the serial numbers. And they had bidders and buyers. We went to the live auction all over the world. And these first edition £5 notes were being sold for thousands and thousands of pounds.
Wow.
Truly incredible to see people wanting certain numbers. And certain numbers were deemed lucky. Certain numbers in certain cultures were deemed the lucky ones. So those ones came up. Wow, people were going crazy for these. Huge amounts of money raised for charity at that.
Money making money. It's funny.
Money making money.
Yeah, my son actually William collects 50p's. And it's some of these rare edition 50p's. He's got a little collection of them, and they're not worth a huge amount. But you look on eBay, they're go for like 30 quid. So even it's worth thinking about just collecting those little, when those limited edition coins. There you go. Money makes money.
Money makes money.
These stories prove that charity shops are full of hidden treasures, and every purchase helps a good cause.
Have you ever found something amazing in a charity shop? Let us know on any of our social channels. We'd love to hear your stories.
And if you enjoyed this episode of the Charity Show Bites, make sure you follow, rate and share. It helps us reach more people across the sector.
Thanks for listening, and we'll be back in a fortnight with more bite-sized charity nonsense, and next week with another regular show. And just before we do go, Tim, I'm going to nip up to the loft because I'm sure I've got an old Picasso line behind a mirror somewhere up there.
Yeah, good luck with that one. Let me know how you get on. Until next time, everybody, thanks for listening and happy charity shopping.